right, come on, this is Short Pants Free Radio. Gamers, get your ears on, because we're blowing the speakers out.
Grimdark Live. It is time for Grimdark Live. This show is for the nerds, the outcasts, the weirdos.
And for short pants gamers?
No, not you.
Ah, crap.
Get ready, all you Grimdark Goons, for dice, dragons, demons, and a dwarf. Only right here on Grimdark Live.
Hey, welcome to Grimdark Live, weekly webcast for all things dice, dragons, demons, and a dwarf in the Warhammer worlds. I'm your host, Patrick, and as always, my co-host, Steve. What do you hear? What do you say, bud?
I'm deep inside the zombie bunker.
I got to tell you, we are all hunkering down, man. We are all hunkering down, but you know what? The show must go on, man. We are going to keep rolling with all this dice, dragons, demons, and a dwarf, and we got some great topics. We got a great guest with us tonight. But Steve, before we get to our guest and introduce him, what do you got, man? What are you going to be jaw-jacking with us on tonight?
Well, we're going to be talking a little bit more about Cities of Sigmar. And then I thought we would touch on our new Seraphon. And we've got the perfect guy for both because he plays them both.
That's right. And we got a lot of stuff in the news that I think our guest is going to be able to kind of back us up on here a little bit too. We're going to be talking a little bit more about the rumor engine. That's something that Grimdark Live got away from for a long time just because every dice chucking nerd out there that found a microphone and a computer connection was talking about it. So we decided that we were going to kind of back off from a little bit. But we've got some tie-ins here that I think are going to come back into maybe Warcry with this rumor engine. And then we're going to talk a little bit in the news about a great group that I stumbled across called Adepticon. And it's actually a very positive group that is kind of in response to the recent Adepticon 2020 cancel that occurred due to the coronavirus. And then we're going to have some questions about some of the new reveals that were supposed to be upcoming, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of those things that were supposed to be upcoming from Adepticon. And of course, we got the Seraphon, but we got the Cities of Sigmar, and specifically with that, Steve, right? We're going to be talking a little bit about the Hollow Heart and the Greywater Fastness, right?
Yeah, because our guest obviously plays both of them, and Greywater Fastness predominantly, but we still are missing that one crucial component of that army, and that's the Hollow Heart.
Yeah, and I think we're going to get to that. And let me tell you, the guy that I'm going to be introducing here, folks, he doesn't play the army. He beats the hell out of us at the table, every one of our war meets. And we do. We have a great guest with us on the show this tonight, and he's a Grimdark Goon, and he's actually here to talk about Seraphon and Cities of Sigmar topics this evening. Justin Bradley. Justin, welcome to the show, bud.
Thanks for having me tonight.
Oh, absolutely, man. All the years that we've known you, and I finally got through to Steve to let you on the show. He's been so against it for the longest time, and it was tough.
What are you talking about? Are you kidding me? My trolls love teaming up with that army.
I'm telling you right now, Justin, I had to do everything I could. I had to fight tooth and nail to get you on the show because of this guy. Aren't you happy that I did that for you?
Hey, you want to know why my trolls love teaming up with that tank army? Because we just follow the cannonballs.
That's very true.
Yeah,
very true.
Just tell us where to go and we'll smash it.
That's a great philosophy.
Hammer and anvil always works. So
that's it. So Justin, how you hanging in there, man, with this COVID-19 stuff? You hunkering down? You getting some hobbying done?
I'm currently working on some of the terrain pieces for Armed Forces Day for Grimdark, and getting some of my hobby stuff and deciding on which army I want to bring to the table.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, that is the choice, and we're going to get into that a little bit more in the news. But yeah, folks, as long as we don't end up in the zombie apocalypse, Armed Forces Day 2020, Armed Forces Day 3 is still a go. But that's a little bit down the road yet. We're gonna get into that. We've got one little development that happened with Armed Forces Day that I think is going to be pretty great for people to hear. But and Steve, Justin, if you'll allow me to kind of park the Winnebago here for a second, I want to make a quick announcement before we get rolling. Due to the coronavirus, aka COVID-19, some of our T-shirt deliveries have been delayed. What they're telling me could be as much as 2 weeks of a delay. So please bear with us. If we can get the shirts faster, then we sure will. But don't forget, Grimdark Live also sells dice and can paint armies as well. So head over to grimdarklive.com for more information. But additionally, and more important to that, Grimdark Live wants to implore everyone to respect this pandemic and remember nothing about this is trivial. And please remember the folks out there in the thick of this situation, those that cannot stay home, your firefighters, your police officers, your nurses and doctors, especially them, grocery store and delivery company and retail employees, and so many others that have to be present to serve the populace through this. Please consider the folks most at risk, such as the elderly and the kids. Social distancing, remember guys, doesn't mean social disengagement, I guess is the best way to put it. And finally, don't panic. Just do your part. And hey, your part could be, being quarantined in your home and listening to Grimdark Live. So it works out, right?
Well, yeah. We don't want to torture him too much.
Hey.
Wow.
See, Justin, this is what I have to put up with every week, man. I fought tooth and nail to get you on the show. I don't know why he was so mad at you for so long. Probably those beatings you laid down on him with that city's army.
How many times do I have to tell you
he
this?
has had several troll armies just kind of disappear to it. So
Yeah,
man.
stupid
Oh, no,
to
you
know the
didn't.
dead.
That kind of got his blood pressure up, Justin. Did you hear that a little bit? That bothered me a little.
a little bit.
All right,
I told
good.
you, we just follow the cannonballs.
That's it. Well, and as always, we got the question of the day and the closing thought towards the end of the show. But hey, if you're new to the Grimdark Live experience and new to our YouTube channel, please click on the subscribe button, the Grimdark Skull bell icon for reminders on all of our upcoming and past shows. And please remember to click on the like button. This helps our little show and gets us better promoted in the YouTube for the Grimdark Live experience. So please recommend us to your friends. Grimdark Live is a great show to get your nerd on every Thursday. And if that ain't enough for you and you like some after-ear action, give our podcast a listen after the live show. We typically publish that a day or so after the live show. And please follow our podcast. There's a lot of additional segments there that you're not going to get in the live show. And the link to our podcast is in the show notes below. And if that ain't enough for you, check out our website at www.grimdarklive.com. Again, that's grimdarklive.com. And today's show is brought to you by GameStorm Gaming, located at 1243 State Street, Lamont, Illinois, 60439, and Frag Factory 3D Printing, printing life into your games. Make sure you get your nerd on with GameStorm. Their website is www.gamestormgaming.com, and you can get your terrain with Frag Factory 3D Printing. You can get them at Facebook at Frag Factory 3D Printing. So without further ado, we are going to get... we're going to get rolling with this. But as we said in the beginning of the show here, folks, we have a great guest with us tonight. Our guest is Justin Bradley, a great guy and a Grimdark Goon and a great personal friend of mine and Steve's, someone that we've known for Justin, 12 years plus? More?
About 13.
Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah, at least.
Forever.
Yeah, it's getting there. You met Steve shortly after he came out of prison, didn't you? You guys...
No.
Oh,
it was in prison. What are you talking about?
Oh, that's right. You guys were cellies together. I forgot about that. I forgot about that. And all the stories about the peanut butter and the prunes. I forgot all about all those things.
Will you stop?
What are you talking about, Steve? I'm just trying to, get acclimated again with our friend here. You're always getting upset.
Lord Almighty, will you keep this show rolling?
That's it. But he's a heck of a gamer to boot. Justin, thanks again for being with us, pal.
Hey, not a problem. I enjoy doing this. So
yeah. So before we get rolling, give our listeners a little bit about your background in the hobby, who and what you are in the game.
Well, I'm predominantly an order player. I've been playing this hobby now for almost 30 years. I started a long time ago. I worked for DW for a little while, so I got acclimated pretty quickly to the processes of how the models were being made, things of that manner. And I fell in love with the hobby just because of the painting aspect, the building aspect, the gaming aspect, the fact that you can do anything in this game. Armies I'm playing, anything order, I will find a way to make it lethal. And I've pretty much proven that one. And
now, why is that? Why do you think that you play order? Why is it order?
Order has, in my personal opinion, some of the best combos in all the books. They have the wombo combos. They have the trick combos. They have the ability to bait and switch you. They have the ability to just turn you on your ear without you seeing it coming. And a lot of the time it takes sacrifice of those armies. You're throwing units into the chipper shredder, so to speak, but it throws your opponent so off in left field that they don't see the left hook coming. I don't know. It's just something I've been catching in the order books, that every one of the books that they've put out recently has got something in it that allows that left hook to come in and just win the game.
I would certainly agree with you.
Yeah, after the show, I got to talk to you about my damn dispossessed, man. You got to help me wake them bastards up. All right.
The who?
See, Justin,
Would
this
would that be the Duarden?
This is what we're going to have to put up with the entire show. But before we get into that, Justin, and I know that this is going to be a great show just because you're here with the Sylvaneth. I mean, the Seraphon that we're going to be talking about, and of course, getting back into your army that you currently play is the Cities of Sigmar. And I think that for everyone out there listening, man, get comfortable, man. And listen to this. We got a great show. But first, we got to get to the news. There's a lot, guys. You know, it's funny with kind of the stalemate that we're in with the virus and Adepticon being closed down. I mean, there's quite a bit to really get into.
There's a lot going on, yeah.
The gaming industry is going to keep on rolling regardless. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. But
I think it's more than that. I think that I think that people need the industry now more than ever.
Yeah,
definitely will agree with you there.
Yeah, and you know it's funny because with the way that I guess the best way to put it, the way that the hobby right now is going, people are really kind of banding together. I mean, they're making sure that they're keeping things going, and we're going to get into that here in a little bit of our next news topic here, which is this Adepticon. But I'm really impressed with the community, aren't you guys?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the way that we've been seeing the community making sure that people are out there being engaged and talking about what they're working on, and it really is it really is very fascinating to me as far as the folks out there, as far as taking care, making sure that everyone is being taken care of. But what we have here is the rumor engine. Now I know that, as I said before, we don't really get into this. So I'm going to guess that this is probably for Warcry. I know I kind of said at the beginning of the show, this to me was something for like a Warcry band of Scion, maybe Scions of Flame. They seem to have a demon skull motif. Thoughts? What do you guys think?
If you look at that picture in the above the skull, there appears to be the Chaos Star.
That's right.
So it leads me to believe that it's something for 40K, because I don't think we have anything coming out for Fantasy Chaos anytime soon.
Yeah, it does look very fantasy.
Either.
It still looks very fantasy to me, though. I don't see the 40K, because if you look at the top of the staff here before you get to the skull, the leather wrapping and all that, I don't know. That still looks very fantasy to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I doubt.
See, I'm not seeing a weapon there though.
Yeah,
I'm seeing a banner icon or something of that manner, something that's going to be hoisted and carried it forward as like a boon engine or something of that manner. That's they're going to plant this thing and everything around it's going to get a boon. You got to get a buff, something.
Okay, so are you saying you're leaning towards 40K on this one?
I'm thinking it's more 40K.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
All right. Well, then I guess I'm outnumbered then, you bastards. I thought this thing was for sure fantasy, but we'll.
Well, think of it logically. There's nothing that it could be coming out for fantasy other than Warcry.
Yeah. Right, and that's kind of what I thought.
Yeah, all the fantasy books are gone. I mean, they're done. All the fantasy books are done.
And last time I checked, Warcry doesn't deal with boons or any kind of buffs like that.
That's a good point, Justin. That's a great point. All right, yeah, maybe I stand corrected. But yeah, I just want to kind of throw that out there because I found it interesting. But moving on was the group that I kind of mentioned before we got started. And that's this group here that I'm presenting called Adepticon. just a great Facebook group that was started from basically the community. Now I think the page here was actually started by Ray Rappaport and Lynn Stahl. I think Lynn was the main person behind this, along with a couple of other people. I think it was Dante Nickens and Brandon Dalzell. And they put this together as a way to kind of reach out to the community to kind of say, hey, look, we're all still out here just because Adepticon isn't around. And they already have over 1,000 members, so this thing just blew up. And it's a place for community to come together and show what an amazing community this is and how much there is to share. I have I've seen project updates, backlog pictures, hobby tips, memories of past Adepticons. I've seen some challenges out there as far as people trying to get certain painting objectives done before the next person, and support. That's really the biggest thing. People that were really, and it's funny, Steve and Justin, there's a lot of people that use Adepticon as that one benchmark in their life, that one vacation that they take. So there's a lot of people that were really like emotionally, I was surprised by that. They were emotionally kind of hit hard that it was canceled.
Well, some guys only get to see their friends once a year.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say. It's that meeting place for a lot of people to get together that may not see everybody. They may talk to them, but not see them.
Yeah. And I was so impressed by this because these people that put this together, and then the response that they've gotten, they didn't have to do this. They could have shrugged their shoulders and said, oh, well, you know what? It's just another, tournament that's come and gone, because it's not the only one that's been canceled because of this. But
everything.
Yeah, I just find it really great that that they put this together. And I've said it before, and I've said 1,000 times more. Stuff like this really makes me proud to be part of this community. And I was generally impressed by this response to the cancel of Adepticon. But we cannot forget the reason Adepticon and so many other things were canceled due to the COVID virus. And that's kind of what I want to lead into our next topic here, as far as the news goes, and that's really kind of supporting your local game store. In light of the coronavirus, COVID-19, many small businesses are having to limit their hours or shut down due to social distancing restrictions, or make refunds or canceled events. We can't forget about them during these times. And I know that we're going to be kind of touching on this here a little bit later in the show too, so I don't want to embellish upon it too much. But I think the common sense is there. I think these folks are running these stores that, for many of them, this is their main livelihood. Many, this is all they have, to put food on the table. And I ask people to consider that these stores, what they've meant to us, and that they should not be taken for granted in these times. We've talked about supporting your local game store, for a while on this show. And these small businesses already have a tough enough time with the likes of Amazon or eBay, taking up their market share and casting doubt on the brick and mortar stores' survival. So just remember that they're out there. And at times like this, it might not hurt to check on, your buddy or whoever that's managing or whoever's owning the store. Even sometimes if they had to cut back on their staff and they can't leave the store, maybe, ask them if you can swing by one of these stores that are just doing takeout food and bring them a sandwich. But don't forget about the people that are out there. And I know, Steve, you're going to be touching on this here in a little bit, so I won't really get into any more than that.
No, but I think it's well said what you just said.
Yeah, and really, guys, without supporting your local game store, there's going to be no gaming community, which means less opportunity to game with others. But I do want to say one thing before we continue. I wanted to kind of throw a shout out there to our home store, and that's GameStorm Games. These guys are really toeing the line. They're doing so many great things for the community, and they're growing. And John is really running a great store over there. And he hasn't given into the panic, but at the same time, he's really upheld the consideration for the gamers. He has a lot of comments on offering curbside pickup if people don't want to come into the store. Sure. He is limiting some of the exposure in the store, but he's really going that extra mile for his clients. He's not just taking the quick road and just shutting down his hobby and gaming space and saying, well, that's it. He's showing a little bit more consideration and kind of going the extra mile. So I wanted to kind of point that out because John's doing a great job, and GameStorm is a fantastic store. I
think John understands probably more than a lot of us that people need to have something to break up the monotony. And he's offering his store as a means of still being able to come in and pick up your hobby supplies. He's, obviously we want people to, still hobby and still do things.
Right.
And John is providing that service for us.
Right.
We have to stand by our stores, guys. We can't just abandon these people, because if we do, when this thing is over, and it is going to end like all plagues and diseases and viruses, it's going to end. And then what are we going to do? Now, look, there's nothing more important than being safe. We don't want to take something home to an elderly relative,
Right.
or you might even live in a home with an elderly relative. You don't want to take that home, but you also don't want to be so paranoid that you can't even walk out your door.
That's very true. That's very true.
So I
So, yeah.
praise Don for what he's doing, and I think that he is contributing a lot to the sanity of the community.
I agree. But moving on here, guys, we got our next topic here with the news, and that's that's of course in lieu of Adepticon, being canceled. I kind of want to talk a little bit about what was supposed to be. I know that there was going to be some reveals that were going to be coming out at Adepticon, and of course, obviously, with that being canceled, I think at this point, and we're going to be talking about the Seraphon. But the only thing that was kind of revealed that we know of was the Seraphon. I know that we've gotten some Lumineth Realm Lords. They were going to have a hard reveal, though, that we missed out on, and there was some other stuff that we're going to be getting into. But I think that's really what the community is kind of waiting for. Wouldn't you agree that everyone's kind of got they're kind of holding their breath, waiting for that deliverable, that what's going to be coming out next? They didn't get that at Adepticon this year.
Well, we have two dates. We have March 28th. GW is going to be releasing something on their website.
That's right, yeah.
And then they are going to release something again on April 4th, I believe the date is.
Right.
Okay.
So there's two dates that we're going to be watching for the reveals.
Okay.
And I'm hoping both of them have Lumineth Realm Lords reveals.
Well, I
That's
imagine they're
I
going
think
to.
that army's going to be the next hotness.
Oof, boy.
Well, boy, we're gonna talk about that. But before that, we're gonna go to Stormcast. One of the reveals that was discussed was this Knight Questor, Dacian Anvil. I hope I got that name right. He was first previewed a while back with no real answer given as to where he would pop up. However, he was supposed to have been unveiled at Adepticon 2020. So no real news on what this character is going to be doing for that Stormcast army. But it's also too important to note another thing just off the top of my head here, that the Golden Demon painting competition was supposed to be held at the event, along with a brand new Golden Demon trophy up for grabs. What could happen with this? I mean, do you think at some point in this year? I mean, Justin, you're a pretty darn good painter. What are your thoughts as far as will the Golden Demon be coming out again in another avenue this year, you think?
I think they might move it personally to an online contest.
Okay.
And then that way the community can vote on it. The judges have better ways to look at it, to pick through pictures and things of that manner. They can digitally check everything on it. They can change, the scoring system goes higher that way. But I think if they moved it to more of a digital format where the community can then put their input on it, you'll see a much broader spectrum of people entering the Golden Demon.
Right. Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, it's interesting to me what they're going to do with that. That one kind of caught me because I hadn't heard anyone talk about that, and I was kind of interested to kind of bring that one up. But also, two Age of Sigmar factions that should have gotten their grand reveal at Adepticon. We know that the Lumineth Realm Lords are still out and about. And as a side note on the Lumineth Realm Lords, if you take a look here, Steve, you and I were kind of talking about this at this post here that was made, and basically it's funny. One person on a page, I'm not going to give the name away, said, "I really hate that GW is planning to pass this off as the equivalent of High Elves in Age of Sigmar. I'm going to steal the paint scheme for the army of older elves I have not painted. Any thoughts on the colors I can use?" But here's people, there is such a mixed emotion. There's such a split in the community as far as how they feel. You've all heard my take on the Lumineth Realm Lords. And that's kind of where I think I stand. Steve, I think everyone knows where you stand. But, Justin, what are your 2 cents in a tin can on this army?
Well, with any army we've seen come through Age of Sigmar, they've all had a cosmetic upgrade. I mean, everything has had a cosmetic upgrade in some way or form. Lumineth Realm Lords coming from the high elf basis, there's nothing different there. You're still looking at the standard city guard with the spears. You're looking at the city guard with the bows. You got your medium cavalry in the new system there.
Right.
What we don't know is bolt throwers. We don't know ranged attack. We don't know the spells. We don't know any of the things that the high elves would have.
Right.
That they've translated over, and until we have that piece of the information, I think there's going to be a divide.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to what you just said. I think you're absolutely right, but it'll be interesting to see what keeps kind of what's coming down the pike on this. But at any rate, the second of the two factions, the other faction that is now out but didn't get revealed at Adepticon, that we're going to be talking about pretty extensively later on here in the show, is a Seraphon. I think their terrain piece and the book are fairly well received. Although our guest, I'm not going to spoil it, our guest is going to test me on that theory here a little bit. It'll be interesting to have that conversation. And we've also been seeing, here it is, Steve. The name Sons of Behemoth dropped from time to time again, and whether in a shipping manifest or being referenced in a GW teaser video, there's definitely something up with this name. And
they're in country. I mean, the book, the War Scroll cards are in this country, so yeah. I'm assuming that's going to be the May release, and it's probably going to come after the Lumineth.
Okay. All right.
Or at the same time.
The Lumineth is going to be one of the biggest releases they do this year.
It seems that way.
Yeah, I think that's without a doubt that's going to happen.
Yeah. Justin, what were you going to say?
I said, or they're going to drop at the same time.
Yeah, that's true.
That could happen too.
They could. And it's funny, you know what? I want to go back on this because I find this army really interesting. And I know the game is kind of going that way, right? Big behemoth monsters, his battle line. We saw it first with the Beastclaw Raiders or the Ogre Moth tribes. And then we saw it again most recently with the talk of what the Seraphon are going to be doing. And we're going to be talking about that, I'm sure, a little bit here later on. But now here it is, an army of giants. And what I think is really great about this, why I think this army is probably going to be a little bit more special than I think people are giving it credit for, than just a big bunch of lumbering rum-dums with boulders in their hands, is that Behemoth was an ancient creature that was the father of all giants, or Gargants, I guess as they're called now in Age of Sigmar. And maybe we'll see an all Gargant faction. I still think they're going to have some, maybe some the rumors of femurs or somebody else like that. That's going to be kind of like their blocking force, their little troops, I guess. I'm curious as to how this thing's going to be rolled out. I was kind of in hopes that we were going to get something great at Adepticon, but hey, that's life. We didn't get the potential reveal at Adepticon, so we're going to have to live with more speculation. But when do you guys think this army is going to drop? What are your thoughts?
May. Probably May.
Definitely May.
Okay.
Maybe late May, but May.
Yeah. It's going to be the pre-summer release.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's going to be exciting, and I agree with you, Steve. I hope that they don't look like your Uncle Lester here.
If they do, I mean, no one's going to buy them. It's going to be a dead army on the day it drops, and that would be a tragedy.
Yeah, I mean, Justin, what are your thoughts on the giant sculpt, the current giant model?
I have a mixed bag on that one. I mean, there's so much you can do with that model in terms of just manipulating him to look better.
Right.
But because there's just so much open surface to do it. But yeah, that model's dated and it definitely needs an update.
Yeah. I think 7th edition Fantasy Battles, right?
6th edition.
6th. Yeah. I think it was end of 6th.
Yeah.
End of 6th, early 7th.
It was one of the first giant plastic models that was put in place, their metal model that was out.
Gotcha. Yep. All right. Well, moving on in the news, another casualty of the coronavirus, Brew City Brawl has been canceled due to the COVID-19 onslaught. In a statement from Brew City, it was canceled Tuesday of this week, and no additional information or dates have been revealed as to the tournament being rescheduled. And I hope it was a good thing for the community. A lot of people really look forward to it. I hope they they figure it out, and if they come back in later in 2020 or maybe 2021, it might be a good one to try to attend. So,
well, it's not even anything they have any control over, too. It's
right.
literally the government saying, you cannot have groups of people more than this size, and it's just another casualty of this damn virus.
Yeah.
Yep,
and
exactly.
that's that's pretty much
sucks. Yeah,
it does. It really does. And I think that I think there was a lot of hard work goes into these how do I want to put it, these tournaments, and I think that people don't take
and
that
it's
people
tough
take
on
that
the
for granted.
TOs too, because the TOs have to go and refund all the money and go through all that BS, trying to get everybody refunded. And, then if you had a hotel room, you're dealing with that nonsense. It's just a general pain in the ass.
Right. Yeah.
And it's unfortunate.
It is. But I can tell you this: one tournament that is not been canceled is Armed Forces Day. This one is still a go. Not knock on wood, and this is going to be our third year for this 100% charity event to support our active duty troops. Armed Forces Day tournament is going to be held May 16th and 17th. And you can head over to grimdarklive.com or check out the information, or to check out the information on this tournament. Armed Forces Day 2020 is going to be a 2-day event, Age of Sigmar event, where each player can bring up to 2,000 points of an army comprised from the most recent General's Handbook and AOS rule set. This event is going to be a 1v1 5-game 2-day tournament to provide donations to our active duty troops while celebrating Armed Forces Day, a national holiday to honor those active duty troops. We're also going to be supporting the Montfort Point Marine Association Chapter 2. This is going to be a separate raffle to support the historic Southside Chicago Montfort Point Marine Chapter. After a half a century of being home to those first African-American Marines who settled in Chicago after the war in 1946, the chapter faces some looming debt with the potential for closure. And of course, Armed Forces Day 3 wouldn't be possible without the supports of GameStorm Gaming, Frag Factory 3D Printing, Ministop.com, and most recently, 6 Squared Studios. They're going to be back with us this year. They're going to be supplying some swag and some prize support, as they did last year for Armed Forces Day 2. So we're very happy to have brought 6 Squared Studios aboard that are going to be participating again for Armed Forces Day 3. So good stuff.
Honestly, who doesn't want to support the troops? I mean, it's a great cause.
Yeah, well... Yeah, it is. And you know what? I mean, you guys getting your armies together?
What do you think? I've been painting all day.
Oh yeah. It's a choice between the Hollow Heart or the Greywater Fastness at this point.
Oh, we're going to talk about that. Justin. I know you're knocking on that door, buddy, but we got to get to the Seraphon first.
Oh no. I know that. I know. Trust me.
So, all right. Well, good deal. Well, we are going to go ahead and get just to that right now. So, without further ado, what do you say, man? Let's start off with the Seraphon. I think that's probably the best place to start. So our guest tonight, I guess the best way to put it on Grimdark Live, for anyone just rejoining us, is he does know something a little bit about the Seraphon. He's here to give us his 2 cents in a tin can on this newly released army. And folks, you will find that our opinions here on Grimdark Live are not necessarily in the tank for anyone, including GW. You will always, as you always have on the show, you're going to get both positive and negative views and comments, and in some cases opposing discussion points. But it's our honest thought on the topics. So strap yourselves in, man. Here we go. So Justin, thanks again for being on the show tonight. And after we talk about Seraphon, you're going to be able to hang out for a little bit longer and talk about some cities of Sigmar, yeah?
Oh yeah, and I appreciate for you guys having me on. So
yeah. Oh, of course, man. Of course, you're a goon, man. You're a Grimdark Goon. So here we go. So folks, if you wanted to, Grimdark Live has already covered to an extent the Seraphon back on our show from March 5th. So for more on what we introduced, please check out that show from March 5th, just a couple of weeks ago. Now, Justin, let's get into the lizards here, and please let me set up your comments on this army. Because Seraphon consistently performed quite well in the tournament scene prior to this release. But the lack of a dedicated tome became more glaring as many armies were getting their second tomes to bring them up to date with the Age of Sigmar 2.0 rule set. And finally,
they were being outpaced.
Yeah, and
really,
finally,
really quick.
Right, that's all changed. That I don't think is happening anymore. And GW has blessed us with a new book and a terrain piece. And Justin, are the lizards? Are they a good army now? I mean, let's hear what you have to say about that.
With what I've looked at and the amount of time I've spent combing through this book, and it's been a fairly extensive comb through because there's a ungodly amount of abilities and allegiance abilities and things that all feed with each other. I have to put them at the middle of the road, like a 5 out of 10 army.
Wow.
My personal opinion, they're a 5 out of 10 army.
Wow.
Okay, we are going to have a heck of a conversation then. All right, let's. I mean, Steve, he did say 5 out of 10, didn't he?
Well, no one knows these guys better than him, so at least not in our group. So tell us what you think.
All right.
Okay.
Back it up.
Okay, let's start with the big changes. What are some of the big changes that you think that they really haven't progressed from I guess the GHB 19? So let's hear what that is.
The nerfs to the way that you build your army, the choice wise. So they all start with the general ways of the Seraphon. That's their bread and butter. That's their primary everything. And then you have to choose to go into be a Starborn or a Coalesced. You make that choice, that gives you a whole nother set of abilities and options. And then when you're in those, you have the abilities to choose either 2 factions for the Starborn, 2 factions for the Coalesced, and each of those give you a huge set of abilities that change the way your army's built. So from square one to square 3, you're making 1,000 choices, and you stumble in one of those choices, and your army is going to just get destroyed.
So you think that there's too many buttons to push to get this army successful?
Yes.
Okay.
And so it's too many rules that feed into each other.
What about the Stegodon list, the one that everyone's raving about?
Okay, so to get to the Stegodon list, you go through the way of the Seraphon, which has all of its abilities, and you have to be a Coalesced army.
Okay.
Once you've chosen the Coalesced, you have to key tag yourself as Thunder Lizard. That gives you the ability to take Stegodons as battle line. Now, mind you, you've chosen Coalesced. You've now lost the ability to summon anything.
Oh, wow.
You are no longer a summoning list at all. You are
no way around it?
No, there's no way around it. You are on the ground pounding, and everything is at the will of what's on the board.
Wow, that's interesting.
Okay. So once you've done that, let me just read you something in here.
Sure.
So basically what the Thunder Lizard basic abilities go into once you go there is all Thunder Lizard monsters, which is what Stegodons and Crocs, all those things pick up. They get 2 wounds added to their characteristics. So they go from 12 wound to 14 wound. Pretty big, impressive jump. So pretty decent. It changes the scale on them, so that when they degrade. Sure. They get the ability to activate or fire their weapons twice, so long as they're within what I think it says here is wholly within 18 inches of a hero from the faction. So the prime example they used there was the Bastillodon firing the laser cannon, fires twice.
Right. Yeah. We talked about that last week as well.
And then 2 weeks ago. Adding 1 to the characteristics of the general's mount. So whoever your general is, he gets 1 attack, and then they can basically pick up they can take an enemy unit and do whatever they're going to do, mortal wounds, stuff like that. This is the army. If you're trying to get into lizards, this is the army you build for low model count, but you're not going to be able to hold objectives with it because there's no buffs to this army for the Saurus, the Skinks, or anything else. It's only the large monsters.
Do the Stegodons have the similar rule where they count as like 10?
Well, they're going that way. They've been going that way with all of the large beast anyway. So most of them are starting to have that ability where they count as 10 models.
But is that a rule in the book now?
It is not.
Yeah, I didn't see it in the book either. But let's take Justin, let's take a step back here, because I think before we kind of spearhead too deep into it, here's the big changes to the army that I see. And there's 4 that come to mind. So the Skinks lost Wary Fighter, and they got cheaper. That's 1. 2.
Yes.
Saurus's. I don't know if this is a change, but Saurus is maybe back in a big way between the buffs on their War Scroll and some of the added synergies given to them in, I guess, the new and improved Battle Tome that we're going to be talking about here. But okay, so maybe that's not a change. The other one I think would be, in general, as you said earlier, I do agree with you that summoning did get harder, but I would say the quality of the units got better. I don't know if that is a big offset.
I would have to disagree with you on that as well.
Okay, all right.
And I'm going to be positive here as best as I can, and I'm going to play the army, and I will find a niche in it in some way or at some point. But let's just take the Saurus Warrior as example.
Okay.
In a unit of 15 or more, they do pick up an ability from the extra attack, which is amazing because their primary weapon you'd be using, like the Celestial Club, which is hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s with a Rend 1. Now you're shooting it twice.
Okay.
But
all right.
Here's the kick with it, though. If you are Starborn, your powerful jaw attack is 1. If you're Coalesced, your powerful jaw attack is 2. So you have 3 attacks as Starborn, 4 attacks as Coalesced.
Sure.
So the rub on them, and what's kind of making me think Saurus are kind of they're still only 1 wound. They're a 4+ armor, and they no longer have the ability with their shields to negate Rend.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I did see about this army though that I liked are the command points. And I'm a command point junkie, and it looks like you can be drowning in these babies here with this army.
Yes, there is a metric ton of ways to generate command points, and some of the factions actually generate them faster.
Okay. And we're going to get into that. And I know, Steve, that you wanted to jump in and ask some stuff, but let me just kind of get this out of the way here first, a little housekeeping here. As far as the War Scrolls, folks, are concerned, as we talk about this army, as you all know here on Grimdark Live, we don't go too deep into the War Scrolls. I mean, they're available publicly. You can check them out yourself on the GW app or the Azir app. You can buy the book. But are there any, Justin, that stand out to you, or even anything that you've heard, Steve? Is there anything that stand out to you, Justin? Any real good or not so good changes other than what you just brought up with the Saurus Warriors?
Well, I'm interested in the battalions. What are there any good battalions where you can make a halfway decent army?
Well, this is funny. I got some. Yeah, go ahead, Justin.
Well, I was going to say the battalions are literally the same on both sides. It's faced by the faction side you eventually take with the Starborn or Coalesced.
Right.
And they're the exact same both sides. They're the exact same unit types, everything of that matter. Their abilities change based upon which side you go.
Yeah, so what Steve, what he's saying is like the format of the battalions, and Justin, you'll probably be able to say this better than myself because I mean I'm a lot newer to the book. I think you've had it for a couple of days, but the format of the battalions here is interesting. There's 4 battalions for each allegiance, like Justin was saying, but they share the same name, save for the Coalesced having the Temple Host and the Starborn having the Star Hosts. Okay.
Yeah, the Eternal Star Host.
Right.
So of all these factions, Justin, which one, if you were going to, drop a dime on a particular faction, which one would you select?
See, I'm almost thinking going Starbound.
Because you like the old school Seraphon.
Because of the ability to summon, but also the ability to have a solid rock core. And I have to kind of give it to the Draconoth's Tail list.
And what do they do?
So they have, it's kind of hard to say. They get extra spells from the lore, which benefits the Slann who's sacrificing all of his spells basically to get a celestial point. So this is still going to give him an additional spell on top of all that. And then their pendant and things like that is when the bearer dies, on a 1 to 3, he's slain, but on a 4 to 6, he just stands back up full wounds.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And there's something else pretty interesting here, Steve, on this one. There's actually, we're kind of bouncing around here a little bit, but there's allegiance, there's sub-factions, and in each allegiance gets to choose from 2 sub-factions, folks, we're talking about here, for a total of 4. There's the Starborn, that we've talked about, and what Justin's referring to is a Starborn gets access to the Fangs of Sotek and the
Drakenlaw's tail.
Dracothonian's tail. Boy, I couldn't spit that out for nothing. Both are battalions from also the General's Handbook. That's what Justin was saying before, Steve.
But they have changed them.
Yeah. The Dracothian's tail allows you to place. Here's what I love about it because I'm a Beastman player. It allows you to place units in Deep Strike. For each Starborn unit that you place on the battlefield, a Starborn unit can be placed in reserves to be brought up on the board at the end of your movement phase, within, I think it's 18 inches of a Slann and more than 9 inches from an enemy unit. So
it's more than 9 inches from an enemy, 18 inches wholly within 18 of a friendly Draconian tail Slann.
And since we're on the topic, sticking with the sub-factions here, with the Starborn, the Fangs of Sotek, that's really your skink sub-faction. And they also let you move your skinks faster on the first turn, and the command ability, I think, allows them to shoot at the end of your opponent's charge phase and then potentially run.
It's called parting shot.
Yeah, but my whole point is I do agree with you on that, Justin. I do think that the Dracothian's tail is going to be more popular as far as the Starborn sub-faction.
Don't get me wrong, the things of Sotek have...
And what's interesting about all of this is that we would have seen a lot of people at Adepticon figuring this out. In other words, this would have been what people would have been doing. So that's really a tragedy that we've lost this opportunity to be able to see how this army will function in the broad sense of the community.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that too, but I still think that's around the corner. I think that what's going to happen is probably a lot like gamers like Justin. I think they're going to have now the time. They're not going to have to bum rush it to get ready for a major GT. They're going to have the time to actually put together a pretty killer list, and I think it's in there. Honestly, Justin, I know that, and I respect your opinion.
I can't see it.
Well,
I think it's here. I just can't see it yet.
Well, then I'm going to steal a page out of Steve's playbook here. Let's start with the command traits. That's kind of the heartbeat of an army, right? So let's talk about that. I mean, the Slann, the Sauruses, and the Skinks each get their own tables to pick command traits from. And the Saurus and the Slann can gain an extra command point per turn on a 4+, with the right trait, I guess. Whereas the Skinks can get +1 to cast or +1 to saves or movement. Now, that can put a pretty good rhythm to an army, I would think.
Well, that in pairing with the things of Sotek, you actually can generate command points on 3+.
Okay, well then touche to that one. I mean, but that's also a command point, right? Or a command trait.
No, it's a command trait. Yeah.
Right. That's what I meant to say. I mean, Steve, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm thinking of this army in I guess in another way. Can this army, in your opinion, be a jack of all trades? Can it be a combat? Can it be like an old classic Lizardmen army where it has where it has its fighting, it has its shooting, and it has its magic all working in tandem?
Yes, you just take a Coalescence or a Starbound, and you don't take a sub-faction. You just feed off the abilities of those, and don't go sub-faction.
Because I think that's, I guess, and I don't know if I'm just going off in a completely different direction. I probably am, but that's what I'm thinking about this army as, because that's where I think you're going to find the secret sauce for this army. I think you're going to find that when you use a lot of these units in tandem with one another, that's where you're going to find that magic formula. I don't think that the Stegodon list is going to be the killer that everyone thinks it's going to be. I just don't.
No, because of the attack characteristics of the Stegodon really haven't changed much from their prior. So you're still hitting on 4s and 5s, depending on what the weapon is. And then you might be wounding on 3s, depending on the weapon, but you don't have the allotment of attacks.
Yeah. You put that Stegodon up against a Daughter of Cain Blood Sister unit, and it will be gone.
It's gone.
Within 2 seconds, that thing's going to be gone.
Yeah, I mean the mortal wound characteristic off of the Daughters of Cain will rip through it.
That's what I'm saying. It's like the scath touch alone from the Blood Sisters is going to knock that thing down to like 3-4 wounds.
And that's another problem I'm seeing with the Seraphon is they don't have a whole lot of mortal wound mitigation.
Well,
do they have any ward saves of any kind?
And let me kind of go back here. Let me kind of go back here a little bit, because I think we got to rear back, because I think they do. We talked about it. We brought it up on they have scaly skin. That's back.
But do they have ward saves?
No.
They
Well, they don't have a
no
ward
way
save.
To give them a ward save.
No. But let's go back here a little bit, because Justin, you made a comment right at the beginning of this topic here about the two different allegiances, and I have a different opinion than you. I think the Starborn is a good choice. It's the older way to play Seraphon, right? Lizardman. But
yeah, I would agree with you on that.
And for folks who don't know much about the Seraphon, there's two allegiances: the Coalesced and the New Lore, which the Starborn. The Coalesced is the new lore, and the Starborn is the old lore. And
right,
I like the two allegiances. I mean, GW clearly wanted to try something very different here, and they did, in my opinion, with the Coalesced. And here's going to be my little bit of a hugging on the Coalesced here for a little bit. The Coalesced factions, to me, are probably the ones that are going to be getting a lot of attention. I mean, Quaddle's Claw gives probably the best faction bonus of the bunch, with +1 to hit for all of the Saurus keywords units on the charge, with a command ability to gain the hit bonus as if you had just charged. So in case your guys are, and that's good in case your guys are already stuck in combat. Now, to state it, one way, because it's more familiar, Justin, and I think this is where you're going with it. The Starborn is really here for those of you who love the old faction. The faction abilities are more or less, and I don't want to sound like I'm being unfair here, but they're a mirror of how the Seraphon played as of the General's Handbook 2019. The Seraphon under the Starborn get their bravery back to 10, which is huge. But not
they'll be pretty much unbreakable at that point.
But not the demon keyword, obviously, so they won't get smitten by Stormcast. The once a turn teleportation ability remains untouched, which I think is huge. But I mean, what are your thoughts on what I just kind of said there?
Oh no, I definitely agree with you. The Coalesced is probably going to be the more popular, just because large scaly units coming at you with massive amounts of biting attacks, massive amount of clubs and spears and things of that can be extremely fast. What I think the Coalesced, you're going to see a lot of Coalesced units coming across are going to be more knight units, more mounted than actual Saurus, though.
Do you think they're going to get a new knight unit or knight model?
I don't think so, but I think they're, what I mean, their Saurus cavalry is in large quantities because they're cheaper, and their battle line is, you're going to see them just coming across the table like crazy, and they'll be into you turn 1 if they're played right.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Steve, what are your thoughts?
I have been thinking about those Saurus Knights and Saurus in general. Is there any improvement for Saurus in this new book?
Yeah, you know what? It depends on the faction, and it depends on the leaders and things that are around them. Old
Bloods give them any kind of like a benefit or something?
Well, so they added, I want to say, at least 6 heroes to this book. They split heroes out of units and they put them as individuals. The nice thing about the Old Blood is they have an ability to pick a unit with an 18, and it adds a +1 to their hit rolls just for them standing there, being a benefit of command.
Right.
So that's your Old Blood. You have the Saurus Sunblood that has the ability to add let's see, what is it? They pick an enemy unit and it adds a wound roll to them. So I mean, it's gonna be a lot of what the characters are around them, but most of their keywords and phrasings are wholly within. So those heroes are going to be right there in the action, in the thick, and have to be. And if they get targeted out, your unit's going to I just see the unit's going to collapse if these heroes get taken out.
And and that goes back to kind of I think what Steve was hedging on with and what you said too, Justin, is the one wound, no ward save.
Yeah, and the fact that they're susceptible to rend again. So you even with the decent,
and that was one of their best defenses,
right? Because you had a 4+ armor and you had a ward save that was up to 2. So. Or you had up to a -2 rend reduction. So it's like now you're pushing them to a 3+ save because of their shield, but you get hit with your trolls that's got a -2 to it. Now you're at a 5.
Right.
Yeah.
I did the math on it a little bit, and a 40-man unit gets hit by a unit of trolls, and half the unit's gone.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Right.
And if they're not fast enough to strike first and do the damage needed to take these trolls down, you're going to be breaking that unit out pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, and God help them if they get against something, that's better than trolls, something like a blood sister unit or something like, a plague. How do you think they would do against like Blight Kings?
You know what? I don't know. I guess it's going to depend on the combination of heroes around them and the spells that you have up for the buffs and things of them on them at the time. I can see these guys being more of sit on an objective and hold it to the last man.
And how many can they have in a unit max?
40 men units, and it's only 300. It's only 320 points.
Wow, that's good. That's great.
Yeah, so let's
that is definitely their saving grace, is because their point reduction literally made the units like, okay, here's a 40-man block for 320 that I can put, say, an Emerald Life Swarm behind it, which is now bound to me, and it keeps raising lizards back. That's their saving grace.
Yeah.
Wow, that's nice.
So let's kind of peel the onion layer back here a little bit. What are your thoughts on some of the artifacts?
Depends. I mean, since you can choose realms and you can pull from pretty much anywhere, they have access to, the entire book, but the artifacts they have, they're pretty deadly. I mean, a lot of them cause mortal wounds. A lot of them cause just adding attacks or just making them faster.
Yeah.
But it seems that's what most of these artifacts are designed for, is just to get them in there to hit a little bit harder, a little bit faster. Here's an extra attack here. Here's an extra bite here. I mean, one of the artifacts that stood out to me is actually the faction artifact from the Fangs of Sotek, and it's the Serpent of the Gold, Gold Dagger.
Okay.
Now this dagger in the right hands causes damage, and any unsaved wound inflicted against the bearer, you get to roll a dice against that bearer. You roll a 5+, it slays them outright.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's funny. I asked you that because you and I are either really coming together and agreeing on this army, or we're pretty opposite. And my overall thought when I was kind of reading through on the artifacts is that the Sauruses have some pretty lousy choices. Though I will say that the Blade of Realities has some use. I mean, it does improve the rend of the weapon by 1 and +1 damage for the weapon against heroes, which, is of particular interest to Scar veterans and Carnosaurs that have 6 attacks on their profile now. But Skinks get 3 artifacts, one of which buffs their save by 1 and their damage output, whereas another buffs their movement and grants them -1 to hit. But overall, I was kind of like kind of blah with the artifacts. I thought overall.
I mean, they're, like I said, they're predominantly designed as buffers and enhancers more than anything like defensive or that would give them the advantage in a certain situation. I mean, a lot of them seem situational. They just really do.
What's interesting about this army is that we haven't heard any great amount of buzz on it. Like, people are saying they like it, but we haven't had a buzz on this army like we had with, like, let's say, Fire Slayers or Cities, where people said, like, holy God Almighty, these Hearthguard are ungodly, or these Blood Sisters are ungodly, or these, tank divisions are going to be, wreaking havoc on tables. We haven't heard that with this book.
Well, part of the reason I think we haven't seen that or heard that is because we didn't get anything new.
Yeah. There's no new lizard. There's no new giant dinosaur. There's no new.
Yeah, I think that was a mistake.
Anything. They had an opportunity here to capitalize on bringing in something big, something that would have made this army have a huge central piece, because they're doing all these diorama models and everything like that, and they missed it.
Well,
Randy
Randy
they could have brought
that.
Mazdamundi in as the diorama piece and made him a ultimate, slan caster that has the ability just to summon a unit for turn one. That would have been like, hey, wow, whoa, let's go.
What are the giant thunder lizards called? The ones that Randy has? The big lizards, the Forge World ones.
For the life of me, I can't remember the name of that thing, but I'll let you know.
The Dread Sauron.
The Dread
Saurians, yeah.
It's actually not in the list anymore.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, here it is. It's not in there.
And you can't even summon it anymore.
Wow. Now, Randy said that thing is up to 35 wounds or something, that they changed it.
It does have the Forge World
profile, right?
Profile. And I don't know if the Forge World profile includes a summoning cost, but as of right now, there would be, if it's higher than 30, there's no way you're going to get it in a 5-turn game.
Yeah, I think he said it's a 35. It has a 4-up armor save and 35 wounds.
Right.
Yeah. So it's basically your Godzilla for the army.
You're either going to take the piece right in your points straight on the thing and start it on the field, because you would never be able to summon it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems to me that if this army had some kind of secret sauce, that somebody would have found it already.
I think
I can have people online talking about this thing and saying, oh, we've got this, or do this or do that. We don't have that for this army. And that really surprises me, because Lizardmen won Adepticon last year.
Right.
I mean, these Seraphon won Adepticon. So there's got to be something good in that older book, or they would not have won.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Some of these profile changes are amazing. I mean, the Croxer got a decent amount of love in this book. It actually did with its weapons abilities. So some of the weapons they can carry made them a little bit stronger.
But we just haven't heard it yet. We just haven't heard anyone come out yet.
Well, we have heard a lot about the universal traits, and I do want to get into that. I mean, and I think this might change. It changed my opinion a little bit, Steve, when I kind of read into it a little bit more, and I think it might you a little bit. I mean, I'm not all negative on the army. I'm trying to call it as honestly as I can.
Oh, I'm not negative or positive. I just haven't heard anything.
Right. I didn't mean to come out that way. But
community-wise,
there are two. You're right. There's very little talk on this army in the community. But as far as the traits are concerned, there are two universal traits, and the one that we talked about a couple of weeks ago that kind of stopped us all cold was the ability for the Slan to swap a spell each turn has remained. Now, with a rule now found in, I think it's called the Ways of the Seraphon, which Contemplations of the Ancient Ones, I think is what it's called. Anyway, secondly, I'm going through my book here, and now army-wide, instead of locked into a specific unit, each turn the Seraphon player can choose a constellation each turn with I think it's called the sacred asterisms, where you can either give one hero +1 attack, a wizard +1 to cast, dispel, or unbind, or army-wide +1 to charge or advance. And this kind of feeds back into why I'm kind of leaning on the coalesce a little bit. But I mean, those universal traits, I think, are what's going to bind this army together. And they may not have one great thing like a ward save or something like that. But I think, like Justin was saying a little bit, I think the secret ability to tie this together is going to be in those universal traits. And in my opinion, specifically with the coalesced. Because they really have a number of traits. I mean, and granted, they're kind of all over the place, but they come together. I guess you could say coalesce.
Again, they work well depending on the faction way you go. You're going to end up using one of them the entire game, depending on your faction. You're not going to be switching them too much.
Yeah, but I like that the coalesce gets a bonus attack on bites. I mean, that didn't work out very well with the ogres, so I guess I like it. But let's hopefully see how well this does. But they get that bonus attack, and if you use the optional special terrain rule, you can get to ignore negative terrain in your territory. While I think only you can benefit from the positives, I believe. I think
you only benefit from the positives of it. You're not affected by the negative effects of certain terrains. Some of them you still are. It does have a range cap on it and things of that manner, but it's okay. It's not the best. It's a great looking piece of terrain. Don't get me wrong. It's an amazing looking piece of terrain.
Right.
The ability of the terrain is kind of subpar. It in a way it takes the Deepkin ship ability.
Oh yeah, right.
And lets you pawn it off somewhere else in the world. So long as it's within 18 inches, it's effective. If it's outside of that, you're kind of 50-50.
Yeah, and we said before on the show, Steve, you remember, you actually coined this phrase that Seraphon players are a lot like the Zeech players. As far as they're very meticulous players, and I think all these little things that you can do are going to tie together. And one thing that comes to mind, sticking with the Coalesced, is the standout for this is probably the fact that all Coalesced get to reduce all damage taken by 1 to a minimum of 1. While it won't, I guess it's not going to help you against D1 attacks. The plethora of D2 and D3 attacks in Age of Sigmar mean that this is going to pay out in dividends for this army. So I think there's some offsets there to some of the things that they don't have. I mean, notably, the current meta darlings, like say the Hearthguard Berserkers with broad axes and I guess the Orc War Chanters are going to get neutered when facing this army a little bit. So I think that's a positive.
I think you're going to see a more effective use of that ability if they're going up against armies where the damage characteristic is say 2 or maybe 3 versus a die.
Yeah.
Day 3, D6 or things like that, because you have a die 6 damage and they roll a 6, you're still taking 5 damage.
Right.
You have 2 damage and you take this, you're taking 1. So the saving graces are versus weapons that are more of a solid damage than a random damage.
Okay. All right. I mean, Steve, what are your thoughts on kind of some of the stuff you've heard?
I think if I was going to go with this army, I would probably go with the more traditional Lizardman army, the Seraphon. I gotta stop saying Lizardman. I think I would go with the more traditional Lizard or the Seraphon list. I would not. I wouldn't try to play like the game of with the Stegodons or to try to make something that I didn't feel confident in putting on that table as a Warhammer player. In other words, I'm not going to get into one of these trick pony armies. I think I would go with the more traditional list.
So you would probably stick with the Starborn.
I would think so. I would think that's the way I would go. I think big ranked up units of Saurus warriors would probably be the way I would go.
I would probably say if you were going to do that, Steve, you should go Coalesced and do Cortal's Claw.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Because of the simple fact that your Savagery Incarnate going through everything, whether it's a +1 to hit, and then you have the command ability of Controlled Fury, which allows you to reactivate that ability on 1 unit. So now you're a +2 to hit.
See, this is an army that I would never play. I guarantee you I will not play this army, but I can't wait to play against it. And
you'll see it on the table eventually. I'm getting there.
Yeah, I want to see what this army can do, and I want to see what both versions of this army do.
Yeah.
Coalesced and these what are they called? Starborn. They're called
the Starborn.
Yeah. Starborn. Yeah.
And truthfully, that's the only way I'm going to be determining which faction is worth its beans, so to speak. It's just because you got to play both sides. If you don't play both sides of the coin, you're not going to know.
Yeah, you're not going to find
where the ins and outs
formula.
Are. Yeah. Because just looking at the book and trying to, piece it together through an army builder or something like that and finding the ins and outs, now, see, it doesn't work that way.
That's what I was saying earlier. Like, there were some armies that the GWs released where the minute we got our hands on, like Zinch, the minute I got my hands on that book, I saw this is a shooting army.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, no, it's a magic army. No, it's not. It's a shooting army supported by magic. And then Noah built the list.
It's pretty nasty.
Well, and then Noah built the list, and then we saw what happened.
Right.
He's just been shooting every single person off the table. So that's what I'm saying about this book. It really is amazing to me that we did not hear that shooty list or that, vicious Blood Sisters list or that vicious Hearthguard list come out already, which tends to make me believe that there's still people in the community, all the Seraphon players are still trying to find out what's going to be the magic formula for this army.
Well, the problem I see with going that route is you have the option ability to do it. The issue is where the armies sit on what side of the coin.
Yeah.
I mean, the coalesced are your giant thunder lizard dinosaur train stuff coming your way.
Yeah.
Or the large block Saurus, hey, we're just going to swarm you horde of Saurus. You want the shooting list, you have to go Starborn because that's where all the skinks are. That's where their list is. So you want shooty skinks, you're going Starborn. You want heavy magic, you're going Starborn. There's no in between on these armies.
Yeah, and I'd like to touch on the magic here. I mean, guys, it's kind of one thing we haven't, ironically enough, for an army that's always been known for their magic. I don't know that we did it quite a good justice on the show tonight, but I mean, Seraphon casters
are unparalleled.
Yeah, but they also come with a new mechanic, which is bound endless spells.
Oh, hell yeah.
So, I mean, if you think about this here, guys, this takes away the old rule for the endless spells that now both players do not control them. I mean, Seraphon, they grasp the magic of that endless spell, and they can take it away from their opponent. So, I mean, let's boil this down.
So they're moving purple suns every turn.
Yeah. So let's boil this down. To interplay with the new bound endless spell mechanic, some of the new spells allow skinks to bind endless spells already in play with the aptly named bind endless spell, turning your opponent's spells against them.
Hilarious.
Slann can dispel all endless spells within 24-inch radius with a drain magic, but leave bound ones untouched.
Yep.
So this really helps Seraphon double down on the endless spell mechanic. And to boot, to add insult to injury of how powerful magically this army is going to be, the spells were expanded from 6 in the General's Handbook 2019 to 12 in this book.
They're broken into two. They're broken into Slann-based spells and skink-based spells.
Yeah, and Seraphon.
Yeah, like goblins and orcs.
Yeah, and Seraphon can change spells round to round. So they don't know just one spell now for the game. They can change them.
Plus,
and how many spells can they cast a turn?
Depends on the level of caster, but the Slann mages, I believe, can cast 6.
Yeah.
Did you just say the Slann mages can cast 6 spells per turn?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy God. We're talking
let's see. But so the Slann star piece is 3, but if he's in a certain faction, he's a +1 to cast, so that's 4. Lord Crocus 4 with a certain faction, he's 5.
Are you saying +5 to cast, or
no? He's casting 5 spells.
Yeah, additional
wow, that's nuts.
Yeah, and again, to kind of give you a little more of a titty twister on this army, with an artifact, and I just had the artifact in my book here, and I lost it now. But with an artifact, Slann have access to a single auto unbind or an auto dispel artifact. I can't remember which one that was.
Yeah,
a one-shot wonder or once per turn.
It is. I think it's a one-shot wonder.
So they basically get a Thanos snap.
Exactly.
Nice.
So, I mean, there's going to be a lot to digest here with this army. I mean, Justin, what are kind of your closing thoughts on the army itself?
I mean, the army's there. It is there. The reason I put it at a 5 to 10 at the very beginning is because there's not enough evidence yet to put it higher. It could go either way.
Yeah, it hasn't been play tested enough.
It hasn't been play tested enough by a myriad of people to catch okay, this is going to work. I'm waiting to see what the meta hunters do.
Sure.
With it.
Okay.
I mean, and once I get more data from the meta hunters and I play test it myself, I probably will increase that rating. But right now, I'm looking at a solid 5 to 10.
Okay. All right.
Interesting.
Steve, what are your closing thoughts on the Seraphon here?
I wish I had the book just to look at it, but from what I'm hearing, this army obviously is going to have its strengths and magic. Right. But we'll have to see. I want to see the army play tested. What's really unfortunate, besides the obvious with this coronavirus, is that a lot of our hobby member community members aren't out there practicing, playing these games, testing this army out. I mean, I know that's all stuff that can be done at home or in small groups or, can come just later, priorities. But I think that once we get down the road a little bit here and people start, going back to their lives, this someone is going to find something in this book. I think it'll end up being a solid 8 once we get the community going again.
Yeah, I kind of had it as a 3-2 to 4-1 army, and leaning more towards 4-1 at major GTs.
I would agree, just based upon what I've heard.
Yeah, and folks,
I agree with you there. It probably is sitting around there. I just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair
you know
enough.
what, that's a very good way to look at it. I mean, I'm Steve and I might be running forward like a couple of idiots, but I mean, you might actually have a better appraisal of what the book is. But let me say this before we move on to our next topic, and we got another great topic coming up. Folks, telling you whether or not you should get a battle tome or an army is often challenging, and I know that a lot of times Grimdark Live, we like to really just kind of put it out there because we're a community-based show, and the question of whether an army book is good or not is also difficult. Competitive, and I'm doing the electronic finger quotes here, competitive armies are a fickle thing. We've talked about it all the time, especially Steve. Metas are often determined by the work of many people working together to squeeze the most out of a particular book. And I hope Grimdark Live has offered enough of our insight with our awesome guest, insights and opinions for you to formulate your own thoughts. And what I can say is how fun this army does look to me personally, outside of the competitive side of it. I think
gorgeous army.
Yeah, I think the book does look powerful. The Seraphon have the benefit of access to a very wide range of units thanks to their legacy from Warhammer Fantasy Battles, and many are powerful in their own right. And you know what? You can have an all dinosaur list. I mean, that doesn't suck. But like I said, we try to call it the way we see it. We talked about the great magic, and we talked about some of the artifacts that were kind of clunky. But I hope at the end of the day you guys make your own decision, and I hope that Grimdark helped you out here a little bit. But good stuff, guys. That was a good review of the Seraphon. I enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
So, but Justin, you're going to be able to hang out with us and talk a little bit about Cities of Sigmar, right?
Oh, of course.
Good deal. Good deal.
My bread and butter armies right now.
That's it. And Steve, this was kind of your topic, man. So I'm going to kind of pitch the ball to you because you guys were going to be talking pretty much about the Hollow Heart and the Greywater Fastness, right?
Yeah, definitely Greywater Fastness and Hollow Heart. Those are two armies that Justin is consistently playing, and Greywater Fastness more so than Hollow Heart.
Right.
But one of the reasons I wanted to talk about Hollow Heart is that we know what Greywater Fastness can do. You've already proven that with your Panzer division.
Pretty much.
I mean, you are Rommel. Yeah. Field
Sure,
Marshal.
I'll give you that one, Steve.
Yeah, you are the Field Marshal with that army. But the problem, well, it's not a problem. The great thing, I should say, about Cities of Sigmar is that it has such a richness of armies within it.
Oh, it's the ultimate kitchen sink army.
Oh God Almighty! It is the jack of all trades book, and all of them are good.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it does have a few masters of all in there, and that's the left hooks I was talking about.
Yeah, I mean, so moving away from Anvil Guard, because we know what that can do. We know with the shooting, it can be as devastating as Zinch. And, obviously you've proven that with your army. Like I said, the trolls love your army. They just get to follow the cannonballs,
Yep.
Especially when we're teaming with you. But Hollow Heart is another list that everyone raves about. It made the top 10.
Yep. And there's a lot of good reasons as to why it made the top 10.
At recent major tournaments. Yes, and rich sauce of this Hollow Heart army, because I have the book right in front of me. I'm looking at it. I found it. I mean, what this army can do. But I want you to talk a little bit about it because you play cities.
Yeah. So
what is it you think this army? How does this army compare to like what the Slann can do in Seraphon?
Well, okay,
magically.
So they don't have the bound spell ability, but they can pump out so much magic a turn that it'll make your opponent want to puke just because
it's ridiculous.
Like, you blow the dispel counter off the wall.
I saw people playing like 4 to 5 endless spells with this list.
Oh yeah, I mean, you can easily drop 6 endless spells a turn. Easily. If you do it right. It depends on the way the list is built with your character base, but for the most part, you could get any spell off you want, and there's no way to counter it unless you have a Thanos snap or you have a automatic dispel.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only way you're getting this army off the table is you would literally have to have an army that deep strikes and that is lucky enough to get that charge on turn 1.
Right, but a smart player is going to screen their mages, and you're never going to get to
that's
them.
it. It's so tough because if you take just a big unit of trash troops and throw them in front of your mages, all you have to do is just keep alive.
A 30-man unit of Phoenix Guard with an attuned
Yeah.
warden that's carrying the Whitefire Tome, which now turns him into a wizard. You're not getting to the wizard line.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
Don't they have that arcane channeling?
Yeah, it's the Eldritch Attunement.
Okay,
which makes them immune to spells on a 5+, which can be buffed to a 4+.
Right. But I think the other one that I'm talking about, I think it's arcane channeling.
Oh, yeah.
Is where you choose a wizard and roll a die and deal that many mortal wounds, and then all wizards within 12 inches will add that number to their casting rolls.
Correct. Well, yes, correct. So, but you don't actually dump it on a wizard because wizards are fragile.
Right.
You dump it on things like the Luminarch or the Celestial Huracanum, which can take the hit, and then you use one of your spell castings to throw Sear Wounds on it and bring it right back to full.
Got it. Okay, that's what it was.
Okay.
All right.
So you're going to a tournament. You've decided you're taking Hallowheart. What are you bringing? What does your 2K list look like?
So my 2K list is usually a Huracanum because of its abilities to strike you at range and just mortal wound dish. It's going to be a tuned Phoenix Lord that's on foot because he doesn't need to be on anything else. And then the rest of the line is 4 battle wizards. That's my hero list.
Okay. And then what would you use for your troops?
So 30-man Phoenix Guard unit, followed by 2 20-man handgunner units. And as a deep striking kind of distraction, a 10-man Shadow Warrior. And then the rest of the points go into endless spells. Everything from the Purple Sun all the way down to Glimmering Blades.
So basically those Phoenix Guard are just going to surround those wizards and stay there for the entire game.
They are bubble wrapped in heavy titanium.
Yeah.
They're not going anywhere, especially once you get an endless life swarm behind them. They just keep popping up.
Yeah, because I mean they're already 2 attacks, 3x3s, -1 damage 1, a 4+ armor by a 4+ ward, and yeah, if you put the life swarm behind them,
they stand back up.
Yeah.
And the endless spells are going to be wreaking so much havoc on the enemy as they're coming in.
Right. The fact that you can take the Umbral Portal and you shoot a Purple Sun across the board turn 1. Because as a Cities of Sigmar player, you are automatically enhanced spells. So your Umbral Portal, instead of it being 18 inches away from a player, it's 24. So you're putting that in front line.
Yeah, this army did. I mean, it came in at, I think, number 6 or 7 at CanCon. So people have definitely found the value of this list. I mean, this is basically your spell list. You know, if you're going to play cities and you want to cast magic, you're taking Hallowheart. If you want to shoot, you're taking, Anvil Guard. And if you want to fight, if you really want to get into, like, if you're just a slugger, you're going with Hammer Hall.
Right. I mean, a Umbral Portal into a Purple Sun blazing through 4 units that are clustered on turn 1. You're watching a good chunk of those units just disappear.
Oh, they're disappearing. Yeah, they're disappearing. That's why they're doing so well.
Yeah.
And they just,
and if you target it right, you're hitting their key stuff. So you're hitting their shooters, you're hitting their casters, you're hitting their things that are going to cause you the most damage. So that's where you're basically throwing a big ball of death at their primaries.
Yeah,
just to get
I
rid
just
of
had
them.
a non-flashback from our game. What was it last week where you did that to my Beastie Boys?
Oh yeah, and how
Yeah.
I don't even remember how many units got hit there. I think it was 3 or 4.
4. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you did that exact. Yeah, and you know what? It's beautiful and horrifying all in the same shot to see that happen.
Right, because
But
the other side of it's on the backside of your line. So come turn 2, even if I take the turn and you get to move it, you have to move it either away from your lines or choose one of the other plethora of endless spells that's coming at you, and I put it back into your lines.
yeah, now imagine you also have like when the enemy finally does get to you, you have ignite weapons on the Phoenix Guard. So
Yep.
now they're +1, add 1 to the wound rolls.
Correct. Yep.
So
yep.
now you are just putting your opponent into a blender when they come at you.
Well, exactly, and if they got to get through the other major spells that Hollowheart has, roaming wildfire, they got to get through that. They got to get through elemental cyclone, which I didn't even use that much because the range on them is kind of limited.
Talk a little bit about, you're talking about the spells now, of the 6 spells. Kind of talk about those a little bit.
Okay, so they're the only faction in Cities of Sigmar that actually have 6 spells in bonus to all the other spells that the mages get from the realms they come from and everything of that matter. Their first primary spell, which is roaming wildfire, is just mortal wounds after mortal wounds after mortal wounds for however long you keep rolling a 4+.
Yeah, it's like the Foot of Gork.
It's wall of fire.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sear wounds, which is their healing ability to basically heal units out, and that does a die 6 wounds heal, which is a very massive heal. Elemental cyclone again is it's a mortal wound for each 4+, but you're rolling a dice against every model in the unit.
And out of 4+,
it's a mortal wound pretty much.
That's like a Medusa Stera 4+.
Yeah.
Wow. Nice.
Warding brand is the one that increases the elemental resistance of the army from a 5+ to a 4. So you again drop that on the Phoenix Guard, and all of a sudden, any spells that are coming through, any kind of things that have magic based on them, are you're ignoring on a 4+.
Wow, that's nice.
And then Crystal Aegis is it adds 1 to the Eldritch Attunement. The Crystal Aegis is the one that increases it to a 4. The Warding brand adds a 4+ ward save against mortal wounds to a unit. So you basically are giving Phoenix Guard save to handgunners.
And then you could also have the ignite weapons on them, so when they do get into combat, they're just murdering anything they hit.
Well, and the thing is that the ignite weapons are not solely close combat. It's any attack. So you can actually ignite the weapons and have them firing firebolts.
Sure. Love it.
So spell-wise, that's their bread and butter. They're going to be dumping magic on you every hero phase, and then holding and castling and saying, come to me, or getting on an objective and saying, you're not taking this.
Yeah, especially if it's one of those objective games where it's like stuck out in the middle somewhere.
Right.
The Phoenix Guard are fast. They're going to run up. They're going to get on that objective, and then it's just going to be a nightmare to get them off of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, if this army had the ability to, if you could technically ally this in with Seraphon or something of that matter, all of a sudden you could teleport a unit across the table. Oh my God. Just a 40-man source unit dropping on top of an objective with ignite weapons. Holy crap.
Yeah. It's going to be a bad day for whoever comes in.
So, I mean, they can tie in really easy, but yeah.
Interesting about this Hollowheart. I got a question for you. Now I've heard a couple of different back and forths since the break of the book, and Hollowheart comes to mind with their battalion. So the Whitefire Retinue.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that battalion?
What are your thoughts? It's a necessity. You have to take it.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's
because you want to keep your drops down. You're literally putting 6 mages onto the field at one time.
Yeah, you want them going first
at one time.
Yeah.
Including the attuned, because once he picks up that Whitefire Tome, he is a wizard.
Sure.
God, the devastating magic potential of that army. And the problem is that you're like the only guy that we know that even plays it.
That's a good point. That's true.
You know, I would love to see the next time we get together. I want you to bring the Hallowheart army. I want to play against this thing.
Well, that's what you had at the last war meet. You played that army, right?
I don't recall if he did or I was teaming with him when we played Anvil Guard.
No, Steve, the last one I went back to Greywater Fastness.
Or Greywater Fastness.
The first one I played against Noah and his Zinch and you, and it was me and God, I can't remember the other guy's name off the top of my head, unfortunately. But yeah, it was we got swept because we couldn't hold the objectives because they popped up.
Oh, that was the one where we played the last game we played against you.
Yeah.
Where the trolls just decided to come over and eat everything that they could.
Pretty much. Yeah. That is the problem, is once you get to my lines, if you start doing enough damage and I'm not making my save rolls, it doesn't matter how much magic I have. It's not gonna save me.
You've got to have something to defend you.
Right. I mean, so here's my question for you. You have a gun to your head. You can only play one. I guess one or the other. Is it Hallowheart or Greywater Fastness?
Greywater Fastness, hands down.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree.
I'm better with that list.
It's more reliable.
It's more reliable. Yeah.
All right.
It's got enough meat in the grinder to hold you at bay.
Yeah, I've played against it and I've played with it, and both were enjoyable. I mean, it is an army that will literally rip you off the table if he even has one good round of shooting. You're done.
Yeah, well, it took out. I remember it took out your two units of Chogoths.
It took out my 9-man unit, and it took out it almost took out one of my 12-man units. Yeah,
it almost took 23 more. Or what was it? 23 trolls off the board in one round of shooting.
That. Yeah, you chewed me up. Yeah, it was. I mean, any shooting army in this game now, shooting is now becoming one of the new metas with Zinch and this Greywater Fastness. They're tearing everything off the table that they go up against.
Right.
I mean, I mean, yeah. So all right, Greywater Fastness is where it's at. I mean, what's your auto list for that? Real quick before we keep the show rolling here. What's your auto list with that one?
My auto list for that one is it's an engineer and tank as my general, which allows me to take 2 tanks as battle line. Immediately followed with a 20-man unit of handgunners as my base core. My special units are 2. My base specials are going to be Duardin with the Drakefire guns, and then we go from there. I mean, most of my stuff is shooting. I've got Celestial Hurricanums and things of that matter that are literally just enhancers. Everything in my army enhances everything else.
Gotcha. Well, it sounds like you got some skinks invading your house there.
My son's getting ready to go to bed.
No, I got you, man. Family's there, man. Real life sometimes sneaks into this hobby of ours, man. Trust me, I've got 4, and Steve's got like 12 from 3 different women.
Jesus, Steve, you've been busy.
He completely hung up on us, I think. Well, good stuff, man. Good stuff. I mean, honestly, I will say this.
What can I say?
Honestly, Justin, you play these armies better than probably anyone I've seen play, and the ability to be able to put these lists together the way that you do is really something, man. Is really something. But you can hang out for a little bit longer, right? We're coming up to the question of the day here.
Yeah, I can hang out for a little longer. That's
all right.
Problem.
So
I just wanted to say one more thing for the Greywater, though, is
sure.
Their big key advantage is the stacking of buffs, because there's no 2 buffs that they have that are the same. So literally the entire army is hitting on like 1s.
And that's for Greywater Fastness.
Which is ridiculous. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, we loved having you on, Justin, dude. You're a great friend. You're an awesome guy to game with, game against. And I'm looking forward to it all, man. It's great to have you part of the community and part of the Grimdark gang. Good stuff, man.
No problem. I appreciate it.
So we are rolling on to the question of the day. So here we go. Steve, I think I'm going to throw this out there to Justin first, and then we're going to come back around to you on this one. So here goes. And I'll ask the question to each one of you individually. So Justin, to you first. How important is it for a gamer to know the hidden strengths of their army?
I think it's important. You need to read your book. You need to know your strengths. You need to know the ins and outs. If you don't know the strengths of your army, you're going to find yourself kind of on the tail end of most of your games, and you may not enjoy it as much. But if you take the time to build your army out, get the units you like, and learn the niches, there you go.
Right.
I've been doing this so long that it's just one of those things. I look at a book and I look at an army and go, hey, let's see how this pathway works. And don't be afraid to try units that look like they're bad.
Yeah. You got to know what works and what doesn't, right?
Right.
Especially before you paint them.
Well, you know what? Painting's a big part of this hobby, and it's one of the most enjoyable parts of the hobby. So,
and folks, that's coming from a painter. Notice how I said quite the opposite. All right. Steve, question of the day right to you. So how important is it for a gamer to know the hidden strengths of their army?
It's absolutely essential if you're going to be a tournament player and you're going to go up against, some of the best guys in the country. But it also depends on, I think there's a lot of other things that go into it. I think there are some people that know the secret sauce of their army, but they don't care. They want to play what they want to play. I think that's evident with me with my trolls.
Very true.
They're not. Yeah, it's very true. I mean, they are not the best version of Gloomspite gets. They're tough. They're strong. They're great, but they have terrible weaknesses like their bravery. But it's what you must know what does work for your army if you're going to be competitive. So, but I also think there's a branch of people that just don't care. They know what works, but they don't care. They want to play what they want to play.
Yeah.
So I hope that answered the question.
No, it did. It did. You answered it great. My standpoint is, I mean, if you're not going to get to know your army in and out, what army are you going to get to know? Then you
suffer the consequence.
Yeah. Well, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me from a practical standpoint. We're all going to get a game in with our friends. We're all going to get a game in doing a little math hammer here on our own. And we're all going to play competitively, if not often, sometimes at some point. So it is important to know your army because you collected it. You bought it, you painted it, you based it, you've got the book. I mean, why wouldn't you want to be, this goes back to what we've talked about hundreds of times on the show. Why wouldn't you want to be the best version of yourself in everything you do, including this hobby? Paint the best that you can, know the army, so that you know all the little tricks. I was just kind of gleefully jumping around like an idiot to you guys at the last war meet about some of the tricks I found with my Beast of Chaos. Being able to have,
been playing them forever.
Oh yeah, I have been playing them forever. That's no joke. And so, but you find these things, and sometimes when the meta or the army or the battle tome, you get a new one, or it evolves, things pop out. If it wasn't for this FAQ, I wouldn't be able to do all these new things with my Beasts of Chaos. So yeah, I think it's important, probably one of the most important things that a gamer does. Because here's the other thing too. I think if you took the time to know that army and its hidden strengths, you wouldn't have so much of this impulse buy and then disappointment throwaway. I think is the best way to put it. So that's
well said.
True. Yeah. So here it is. We've gotten through the question of the day, and we got the closing thoughts here on the show. And this one is you, Steve. You got the closing thoughts on this one, bud.
Yeah. So here's what I want to say. This virus, that we've all been dealing with has really thrown our community for a loop. Many of our favorite stores have ground to a halt. Their businesses are really suffering. So now it's time for us to step up. even though you can't meet with your crew at your local store, that doesn't mean that you can't pick up a box of figures or buy a book that you've been eyeing for the past couple weeks. These store owners, they give us a place to play and spend time with our buddies. It's time we stepped up and helped protect their business from financial ruin. Call them up, offer to buy something over the phone, place an order, buy some paints. If you don't want to go into the store, have them ship it, or just run in and do a stop, or do a brief grab and go. As responsible citizens, we have a duty to be responsible and not contribute to the spread of this virus. But that doesn't mean that we should abandon the guys that give us a home to play every weekend. Since we can't game right now, let's face it, we're at a point in time right now where the hobby is just not an option for us. So let's get that new army painted, finish that terrain, go back over old models and do some detailing. There are plenty of things to do on the home front that can keep us occupied and continuing with our hobby. So in closing, just, be safe, Grimdark Goons, and keep hobbying. And those
Absolutely.
are my closing thoughts.
That was a good one. Very fitting for the times that we're in, for sure. And yeah, well said. Justin, thanks again and again and again for being on the show today, bud. And you're going to come back and hang out on the show again, right?
Oh yeah, anytime.
Yeah. And forget about the fact that Steve doesn't watch here. Just forget about that right
Will
off
you
the bat.
stop?
That's all right. I'll teach Steve a few things about order playing.
There you go.
He loves trolls.
Uh-oh, here we go.
Are you kidding me? He had such a good time just having the trolls go up front and beat everything up while he sat
Hey,
back.
you know what? Everybody needs a meat shield once in a while.
That's right. Everybody needs a meat shield, especially a blue stupid one.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys didn't say meat curtains.
God!
Stop.
What are you talking about? I'm just adding to the story. You guys are yelling at me all
End
the
the
time. I
show.
can't even talk about anything. No, I will say this, folks, before I end the show. These two guys, out of the top maybe 5 games I can think of in recent memory, these two guys have played 2 of those 5, and they just watching these two, meaning Justin and Steve on the tabletop playing. It is such a joy to watch these two guys go at it. So if you're ever around and these two guys are on a table and they're fighting with each other, do yourself a favor, watch the game. Good stuff. All right, that's a good way to end the show. Yeah. Another great show. Now, all the Grimdark Goons and I'd like to thank our guest, Justin, and all of our listeners for another great show, and we look forward to having you back next time we discuss all things related to Dice Dragons, Demons, and Dwarves in the Warhammer worlds. So please don't forget to join us next Thursday at 7:30. And as always, stay tuned for Monster Mondays, Warhammer Wednesdays, and the podcast on Podbean and more leading up to Thursdays with Grimdark Live. So until we meet again, remember, don't be a short pants. Let's all embrace the main message here from Grimdark Live, and that's the social contract we have between gamers and the commitment we have to this community and to each other. We're only as good as our last game. And as always, please don't forget to give our channel a like or subscribe if you haven't already done so. And so with that, may the dice gods bless you and your sweaty palms. Bye.